Having knowledge in the form of books is one of the best things any prepper can have. All that wisdom written down on paper that won't magically disappear during a grid down scenario is very valuable. So stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to talk about 5 different books that everyone should have if they're prepping, and one additional book just to kind of give you something extra. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about 5 books that you need if you're prepping. If you're prepping right now, these are books that you can definitely use to help you further your knowledge and a sense of preparedness and give you better ideas about other ways of looking at different types of events that might occur in the future. It's a good way to open your mind to different ideas and concepts that might happen to you if you're preparing for any kind of an emergency. And knowing what you're going to do and how you're going to react to any of those different situations that might arise can help be the difference of you surviving or not. So make sure you have this knowledge and make sure you get it in paper. You can, of course, buy books in the sense of Audible style files where you can listen to the books, or you can go ahead and get the digital version and read it on your iPad or whatever you might do. But I suggest buying paperback so you have all the knowledge on paper that won't disappear in case the internet goes down or there's no electricity or whatever else might happen that makes it so you can't access that information anymore, okay? And if you're worried about prepping and you want to survive any kind of an SHTF scenario that might happen, hit the subscribe button below, because we need to make sure that we keep moving forward in preparedness and we keep the community growing as a network. Now, let's get to the books. So the #1 book on the list is the Sas Survival Handbook, written by Weissman, okay? It's a complete overview of survival, okay? And I have it right here so you can check it out. And obviously it's Christmas season, and I thought books are probably some of the best gifts you can give people in your life that you are worried about not being prepared enough, or people who are into preparation but might not have all this knowledge already. This is an extremely excellent gift, and so is every other book that's on this list. So I thought I might give you guys some ideas, especially based on the time of year it is, of what you can do for those that you want to help move forward in the sense of preparation. The SAS Survival Handbook is an excellent book to give to anybody who wants to be more prepared. It is just excellent. Complete overview in general. Edible poisonous plants to surviving different climates, to knots, to cooking, to everything. It has everything you need to survive, okay? And that is something that's very important. So this is probably the #1 book I would give to somebody if they weren't sure about preparation, if they weren't sure about preparedness, if they weren't sure about what it was they were doing or what they were prepping for. This will definitely help guide them and lead the way. Excellent book. I suggest it. This is a brand new copy, which I'm hoping to get to somebody who needs it more than I do very soon here. Okay, moving on. The #2 book on this list is the Survival Medicine Handbook, okay? The Survival Medicine Handbook is by Joseph and Amy Alton. It's a full overview of medical treatment as if there's no help coming. They want you to take everything into your own hands, and they give you a full overview of how to utilize any of that medical knowledge that you gain from this book in any kind of an emergency scenario, okay? And they give you a lot of different information in this book. Anything from how to treat bullet wounds to how to treat dental situations, as well as even how to deal with childbirth when you're the only one around to help deal with it, okay? It also has some other situations in the book that gives you basic survival understanding as well, like things related to how to prepare for a tornado or maybe how to deal with hypothermia. Very, very valuable book. And honestly, we all know that medical is one of the places that most of us are lacking in. So if you don't have a medical background and you don't have the expertise to actually deal with something in a post-SHTF environment, this book will be able to get you through. And it also makes an excellent gift for that reason, because I'd say 95 to 99% of the people you know don't have any medical training at all. And it's very important to at least have some reference and some knowledge laying around in case something comes up that you don't know how to deal with. Did somebody get bit by a snake in your mag? Well, what are you going to do about it? This book will tell you. So keep that in mind. Very excellent book to have in your library as a prepper, okay? The #3 book. This one's pretty obvious. The U.S. Army Survival Manual. The U.S. Army Survival Manual is obviously created by a team of experts who wants to make sure that anyone within the Army is able to survive any kind of a wilderness situation, but it goes into more depth than a lot of the other materials you're going to have on this list when it comes to things like surviving hostile environments, when it comes to that wilderness survival, what the expectations of are. It even goes down to how you build primitive tools, how you can craft weapons in case you find yourself unarmed. It also tells you how to deal with nuclear, biological, and chemical agents if you're in an area that is being affected by those things. So this is a very good handbook to have. This is one of those manuals kind of similar to like the Boy Scout handbook, except for the advanced class, that if you were to take this out in the wilderness with just this and probably a nice knife, you could probably get pretty far with all the knowledge that's in here. So U.S. Army Survival Manual. It's very, very, very good source of knowledge. And these are the types of books you should have on hand on paper, so that way if the internet goes down, if the grid goes down, if you can't run electricity to read all the books you have stashed away on your iPad, you have this in your hands ready to roll, okay? Next on the list. Now, this is actually more of a fun read, an easier read, and a thought-provoking read that I think is definitely an excellent way to get somebody new into preparedness, or to get a new prepper into the right mindset, or push them a little bit when it comes to their thought process, okay? And this is the Prepper's Long-Term Survival Guide by Jim Cobb. Now this book is a lot shorter if you can't tell. It's not very big, it's not very long. So what it does is it gives you a basic overview of just about any situation you can think of, and then it helps you understand what you should do in those situations. So for anybody who's new to prepping and anybody who's not sure how they would react to a certain type of disaster or a certain type of scenario that involves them trying to survive, this book can actually help them understand what they should do in those situations. Now, if you want to get into more detail of each individual situation, then you turn to things like the SAS Survival Handbook, or you turn to things like the U.S. Army Survival Handbook or Manual or whatever they call it. But anyway, those are the books that have all the little details. This is more about just basic understandings of what you should do in case of a disaster event. You know, if you're going to have to deal with a tornado, what do you do? If you have to deal with grid down, what do you do? It has all that different information in here, but on a more of an overview basis. It's more broad when it comes to, you know, its explanations, and then the details are in the larger, thicker books. But this is a great way to open somebody's perspective, open their mind, give them some different ideas about what could possibly occur and what they should expect in those situations. And I think this might be one of the best books out there to get somebody involved in prepping, get them into the concept of it without overloading them. Imagine trying to give the U.S. Army Survival Manual to somebody who doesn't have any background in prepping or even being an outdoorsman or anything like that. Do you think they're going to sit down and read it from front to back and even absorb any of that information? Probably not. But this book is a much easier read. You could read this book on just like an airplane ride and have a good time with it and have a lot better understanding of some of these scenarios after the fact. So, excellent book. Great for a gift for somebody you want to get into prepping, especially in the sense of a new prepper, okay? And just to remind you guys, all these books will be listed down in the description below, as well as the pinned comment. So that way, if you want to go ahead and jump online and order them or whatever, it'll make it a little bit easier for you, and it does help support the channel. So thank you guys for that. Okay, and the last book on this list of 5, even though there's a bonus, don't forget, the last book on this list of 5 is called The Worst Case Scenario. Okay, this book is by Joshua Piven and David Borgenscheist or something like that. Sorry, I know I ruined his name, but either way, this is a cool book. And the reason I like this book, and this is something that everybody should have on hand, it's not about every little detailed piece of information in this book. This is not the book to learn how to create every single knot on the planet. This is not the book to learn how to create every single shelter that you can make out in the wilderness. This book is more about how do you deal with extreme situations on a one-on-one basis? How do you deal with things like how to ram a car? How do you deal with things like how to fend off a shark, okay? This is what's in this book. It has a little bit of everything of those strange and extreme situations. But what I like this book for, and what I think that any prepper out there could actually benefit from this book, is that it opens a process of thinking a little outside of the box, and it gives me at least a lot of different ideas about different forms of prepping that I haven't thought of before. And even this book comes up with ideas for me at times for, you know, how to make a video or like what kind of content to put out, because there's so many interesting little what ifs in this book. And those what if scenarios are things we should all be wargaming in our heads, and then we should say, hey, honestly, this could really happen, and what do you do in that situation? This book will answer that question for you in many, many ways. So, I mean, this thing, it gets through the basics, like how to survive, a grid down collapse, but it also tells you like what to do to stay alive in a night in jail. There's a lot of good little tidbits in here, and it really makes you think of those different things, because I don't know about you, but a lot of preppers don't think about, what they're gonna do if they do get locked up overnight and they're in a rough crowd. So this book will tell you. Very cool book, very thought-provoking, helps keep you, I guess focused is a good way to say it, and it helps you get some different ideas about things that you didn't even ever consider, okay? So, excellent book, worst case scenario. We have David Borgenite, probably is the right way to say that, and Joshua Piven, okay? So, excellent books, and hopefully this gives everybody some ideas about what they should do moving forward when it comes to their prepping, and it gives you a good concept and a good place to start when it comes to building a prepper library. Of course, there's a lot of other books out there that can give you some great information, and there's a lot of other things that you might need more details on if you're building a library. Like as for me, I have, the Lyman Reloading Guide in my library. I don't need that Lyman reloading guide necessarily because I generally use the internet to develop any of my load data. However, if I lose the internet, I can still load just about any round out there thanks to that book. So these are important things to have on paper in your home that you can hold in your hands and have on you anytime you might need them. And that sixth book, that bonus book I wanted to talk about, is actually, it's kind of a series of books, but it's the Outdoor Life books. Outdoor Life puts out a bunch of different survival manuals. This is the Ultimate Survival Manual, 333 skills that will get you out alive, okay? So they have a bunch of these for different concepts. They have like the wilderness one, they have like the disaster one, they have all types of these. And honestly, these are a great read. They're quick, they have amazing illustrations inside that kind of just show you a little bit of everything about what's going on in these different scenarios that they're gonna go through. Everything from, you're caught in a burning building to you've been captured by a drug cartel. Everything is in this book because it's more in the sense of entertainment and it's more in the sense of giving you some basic concepts than it is to give you those nitty-gritty details like some of the other manuals have. But it's still a cool thing to read. It's still a good way to understand different scenarios that could occur. And it also has a bunch of different offerings for different types of survival situations that you can purchase, not just this one book, but like all the different ones they have. So I think these are cool and they're a good way to go, and they make especially good gifts, and if you have to find somebody a new gift every year, luckily with these, you can get them this one, and then the next year you can get them the disaster one, and the next year you can get them the wilderness one, and it just keeps going from there. So definitely a good thing to have, definitely a good read, and like I said, they have the whole line of everything that you can possibly think of. So hopefully this helps you guys. Books are super important. Knowledge is extremely important. And we all know that knowledge is the one thing that won't go away after an SHTF scenario. And that's why you gotta get skills, you gotta get training, and you gotta read up on what you can now. So when those times come, it's not gonna be an issue for you, right? Prepare so that you don't have to be worried when things actually happen. That's what we try to do. So if you have anything else to add to this list of books you need for prepping, leave it in the comments below. Make sure that if you have any of this information, it's stored on paper more so than just on a digital device, just in case, okay? Because even if you have backup power, you have a solar generator, you're gonna be able to run all your electronics, you're not even worried about that. EMP proofed, everything's in a Faraday cage, whatever. Electronics are still man-made and they still don't work sometimes, regardless of how well you prepare. So it's still better to have something on paper. Yes, that can catch fire. Yes, that can eventually disappear, or it could rot, or whatever you want to call it, but it's still generally easier to maintain and know that you can be secure in its existence than something that's digital. Just my opinion. So without anything else to say about the 5 books you need for prepping, and maybe the 6th one that I think is just a cool addition, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.